Success begins in the mind, and it is forged in fire, the fire of discipline, adversity, and unrelenting desire. Mental toughness is not gifted at birth, it is built. It is the invisible armor of the achiever, the relentless will that defies defeat and laughs in the face of discouragement. Those who possess it do not wait for motivation, they create it. They do not crumble under pressure, they become sharper. The mind, like steel, grows stronger when tempered by the heat of persistence. If you would become unstoppable, you must first understand that hardship is not your enemy. It is your teacher. Welcome it. Seek not the path of least resistance, for no great man ever found greatness in comfort. Greatness lies beyond the limits of what is easy, familiar, or safe. It lives on the edge of effort and demands the full measure of your will. To train your mind to be tough, you must first take control of your thoughts. Every weakness begins in thought, every surrender, every failure, every moment of doubt. It all begins in the silent chambers of your mind. Guard it well. Speak to yourself with strength. Let no self-pity, no excuse, no fear take up residence in your thinking. Say to yourself, I will, until your heart believes it. A man becomes as he thinks. Think like a winner, and you shall act like one. Think like a coward, and defeat will chase you into your dreams. You must feed your mind daily with purpose, clarity, and conviction. Read words that ignite you. Surround yourself with voices that elevate you. Allow no time for petty distractions or idle complaining. These are the luxuries of the weak. Action builds toughness. It is not enough to wish to be strong. You must do. Do what you fear. Do what you resist. Do what others avoid. Each time you act in the face of discomfort, you build an iron will. Each day you rise before the world wakes, push beyond your fatigue, and choose growth over ease. You are forging the kind of mind that cannot be broken. Remember this, the mind is your greatest ally or your most vicious enemy. Train it, and it will serve you. Leave it untrained, and it will betray you when you need it most. Success, fulfillment, and greatness bow only to those who have mastered the battlefield within. You are not here to be average. You are not born to blend into the crowd. You are here to rise above circumstance, criticism, fear, and doubt. But you must decide today that nothing will bend you. Decide that pain will polish you, not break you. Decide to be the kind of person that even adversity fears. The man who conquers others is strong, but the man who conquers himself is unstoppable. And the world makes way for the man who knows where he is going and will not be turned aside. Mental toughness is built, not born. That is a truth few want to hear, because it removes the illusion of excuse. It declares that strength of mind is not a matter of fate, upbringing, or luck. It is a matter of deliberate construction. It means that no matter where you begin, no matter what obstacles stand in your way, you have the power to forge an indomitable will. And if you do not, it is not because you cannot, but because you chose not to. The misconception that people are simply born strong is one of the greatest barriers to growth. It suggests that some men and women just have something the rest don't, that they wake up with unshakable confidence and never face inner doubt. But those who walk with quiet power, who make decisive moves under pressure, who rise after every fall, they were not handed that steel, they earned it. They built it in silence, far from applause, and often through failure, discomfort, and rejection. Mental toughness is not a single act. It is not proved in a moment, but in a pattern. It is found in the daily choice to move forward when it would be easier to retreat. It is built every morning you get up when you want to stay down. Every time you confront fear instead of avoiding it. Every time you choose discipline over indulgence, truth over comfort, and effort over ease. Those moments look small, almost insignificant, but together they shape the foundation of an unstoppable character. The process begins with clarity. A man without a definite purpose cannot become mentally tough because he has no compass. He will drift, and in the face of difficulty, he will surrender. But the man who knows what he wants, who knows why he wants it, and who has burned the bridge behind him, that man becomes dangerous. That man does not entertain the option of quitting. He does not negotiate with his weakness. He confronts it, and through that confrontation he grows. Mental toughness is also built through resistance. Just as the muscles of the body grow only when pushed against weight, so the mind grows only when it is tested. If you avoid challenge, you rob yourself of the very process that would elevate you. You must seek the discomfort. When it hurts, go one more round. When you're tired, do one more task. When your mind says no, that's when the real training begins. Most people never reach this stage because they live their lives at half throttle. But those who want greatness run into the fire. They understand that the pain of discipline is temporary, but the pain of regret echoes for a lifetime. Do not think that the process is glamorous. It is not. It is lonely. It is thankless, and it is often invisible. But each step, each repetition of effort in silence hardens your resolve. You begin to see difficulty not as a barrier, but as a builder. You start to embrace it, knowing that within every obstacle lies the opportunity to rise. And over time, the things that once shook you lose their power. The same situations that made you fold now only make you focus. Mental toughness is forged not in grand victories, but in the unseen battles. When you choose to be calm in chaos, when you choose not to complain but to carry on, when you face the temptation to quit and choose instead to take one more step. These are the moments that decide the man you become. Not the applause, not the recognition, but the internal decision to keep showing up fully committed. It is a matter of repetition. There is no shortcut. You do not wake up one day with a mind of iron. You build it by choosing effort over comfort 100 times, 1,000 times. And just when you think you've reached your limit, you discover you haven't, because toughness does not live at the surface. It lives deep within, and it waits for those who are willing to dig for it. When you understand that mental toughness is built, not born, everything changes. You stop envying those who seem stronger. You start creating your own strength. You stop waiting to feel ready. You begin training yourself to act regardless of how you feel. You stop asking for easy paths. You begin walking the hard road, knowing that each step forward, however small, is bringing you closer to becoming the kind of person who does not break. Control your thoughts or they will control you. That is not just a warning, it is a law. Every action a man takes, every emotion he feels, every decision he makes begins first as a thought. Whether he builds an empire or destroys his life, the origin lies in the invisible realm of the mind. Most men walk through life unaware that they are being led, not by logic or discipline, but by thoughts they never chose, never examined, and never challenged. And so, they live small, reactive lives, blaming fate, circumstance, or others, all the while being controlled by a mind they refuse to master. A weak thought left unchallenged becomes a belief. That belief becomes an attitude. That attitude shapes behavior, and over time, that behavior becomes your destiny. This is why mastery of thought is not an option for the man who seeks strength. It is a requirement. No man can conquer the world until he first conquers himself. And to conquer yourself, you must first govern your thinking. The mind, like a field, will grow whatever you plant in it. If you sow seeds of doubt, fear, and self-pity, it will yield anxiety, hesitation, and failure. If you sow clarity, purpose, and courage, it will yield progress, power, and peace. The tragedy is that most people allow weeds to grow wild in their minds. They wake up and allow the opinions of others to shape their self-image. They listen to their fears and call it instinct. They allow failure to define them rather than teach them. But the man who is mentally tough refuses to allow any thought to take root unless it serves him. He is ruthless with his mental environment because he understands that his future depends on it. This does not mean you will never have negative thoughts. It means you do not allow them to stay. You watch your thoughts as a guard watches a gate. When weakness knocks, you do not invite it in. When self-doubt speaks, you do not give it a microphone. You acknowledge its presence, but you do not obey it. You replace it immediately with thought aligned with your mission. I can't becomes I will. This is too hard becomes this will make me stronger. The mentally tough man is not free from doubt. He is simply unwilling to bow to it. Controlling your thoughts is not a one-time act. It is a discipline, a daily sharpening. You must build the habit of catching yourself in moments of weakness and redirecting your focus. You must speak to yourself with strength even when the world gives you none. You must feed your mind with the kind of input that reinforces power, not pity. Read things that stir your spirit. Listen to voices that challenge you to rise. Surround yourself with environments that demand the best from you. Silence is powerful, but for the undisciplined mind it is dangerous. In silence, the undirected mind wanders into fear, fantasy, and regret. The disciplined mind, however, uses silence to refocus, to strengthen resolve, to reconnect with purpose. If you want to master your thoughts, do not distract yourself from them. Sit with them, examine them, and decide which ones deserve your attention. This is not easy work. It requires courage, because when you confront your thoughts, you confront your patterns. And when you confront your patterns, you are faced with responsibility. That responsibility is the birthplace of power. The truth is, your external world will never outperform your internal one. If you think like a failure, no amount of effort will produce success. If you think like a victim, you will always find someone to blame. But if you begin to think like a winner, if you speak to yourself like a man destined for more, and refuse to tolerate any lie your fear whispers, you will act in accordance with that belief, and your life will begin to reflect it. Control your thoughts, or they will control you. Let them go unchecked, and they will direct your life by default. But take the reins, and you become dangerous. You become focused, disciplined, and clear. The world no longer controls your mood. Failure no longer stops your stride, and fear, no matter how loud it shouts, no longer decides your direction. Hardship is the training ground of strength. Without it, no man can know his true capacity, and no spirit can rise to its highest form. Comfort may soothe you temporarily, but it weakens the very core of what you are capable of becoming. The great mistake most make is believing that struggle is a curse, that adversity is a sign to turn back, that discomfort means something has gone wrong. But the truth, known to every man of real achievement, is that hardship is the forge through which greatness is formed. Without pressure, coal remains coal. It takes the fire, the weight, the resistance to form the diamond. You do not become mentally tough by reading about it, talking about it, or wishing for it. You become mentally tough by facing what breaks others and refusing to be broken. You become tough when the world says you can't and you keep going. You become tough when pain shows up and you don't run. You lean in. Every hardship is a test, not of your circumstances, but of your response. The mentally weak man looks at adversity and asks, "Why me?" The mentally tough man says, "Let it come, let it teach me, let it shape me." Those who understand the value of hardship do not seek to avoid it. They do not pray for ease. They pray for the strength to rise under pressure. They understand that life will test everyone. It is inevitable, but only the few will use those tests as tools. Every setback becomes a setup for refinement. Every failure becomes a classroom. Every loss becomes a sharpened edge. The man who chooses to face these things head on, with full awareness and full responsibility, becomes a weapon, silent, focused, and unstoppable. Strength cannot be simulated. It must be summoned, and summoning it requires pain. There is no growth in safety. If you want to develop the kind of mind that can endure anything, you must walk into storms, not away from them. You must put yourself in situations that demand more of you. You must allow yourself to feel the weight, not run from it, because each time you carry a heavier load, you become more capable. And each time you break under pressure, then rise again, you prove to yourself that you are harder to kill than your fear would have you believe. Most men live their lives trying to avoid the very thing that would free them. They look for shortcuts, they seek approval, comfort, praise, and permission, but none of those things make you strong. What makes you strong is walking through fire and coming out with your head high. What makes you strong is hearing the voice that says, "Give up," and answering with action. What makes you strong is taking ownership of your suffering and using it to carve a sharper version of yourself. Hardship humbles the arrogant and hardens the willing. It strips away excuses, lies, and illusions. It shows you who you are, and more importantly, who you could be. Most will shrink in its presence. They will justify weakness, delay decisions, and settle for less. But there are a few, those rare few, who will meet hardship as a calling. They will see pain as a message, not a punishment, and they will use it. They will let it refine their focus, elevate their discipline, and deepen their hunger. It is not how much you suffer that matters. It is what you do with it. Some will carry their hardship like a burden and let it break them. Others will carry it like a torch and let it lead them. The difference lies in mindset, in attitude, in belief. The tough know that everything worth having lies on the other side of resistance. They do not beg for an easier road. They simply become stronger men. Each time you meet hardship and choose to rise instead of retreat, you are training your mind to be unshakable. Each time you stay in the discomfort when it would be easier to quit, you are chiseling out the kind of person who can walk into the fire again and again and come out harder, sharper, and wiser. This is how strength is built, not in moments of ease, but in moments when every part of you wants to stop and you keep moving anyway. Consistent action breeds inner power. It is not talent, luck, or inspiration that separates those who rise from those who remain stuck. It is relentless, disciplined movement in the face of every excuse, fear, and obstacle. The mind does not become tough through theory. It becomes tough through action, through doing what you said you would do, especially when you don't feel like doing it. Every small decision to show up, to persist, to push forward, is a brick laid in the foundation of unstoppable character. Most people are waiting to feel ready, waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for motivation to arrive and give them permission to begin. But the truth is, motivation is a liar. It will abandon you the moment the work gets difficult. Those who are mentally tough do not depend on feeling inspired. They act in spite of how they feel. They understand that consistency is a weapon, and they use it to beat back every voice of doubt and delay. One action, taken once, proves nothing, but when you repeat that action again and again, through all seasons, through all moods, your brain begins to change. It no longer debates whether you're capable. It no longer questions whether you're committed. It accepts your identity as someone who follows through. This is not a single breakthrough. It is the result of hundreds of silent battles won, where you chose effort over ease, discipline over indulgence, and purpose over distraction. Each time you take action when it's inconvenient, when you're tired, or when fear is loud, you strengthen your will. Action becomes your answer to doubt. It becomes your proof. You don't need to convince yourself with affirmations or external praise when your habits are aligned with your goals. You become your own evidence. That kind of internal power cannot be faked. It's earned in quiet hours, behind closed doors, far from recognition. And it is in those hours that true confidence is born. The world rewards consistency. It rewards those who stay in the game long after others have quit. The ones who show up every day, whether it rains, whether they're tired, whether they've failed. They gain a strength that can't be touched by setbacks or shaken by criticism. Their actions compound. Progress may appear slow at first, but the man who moves consistently, however small the steps, will always outpace the man who waits for ideal conditions. Consistent action is not glamorous. It is repetitive, it is often mundane, but in that repetition lies transformation. Repeating the right behaviors builds habits, and habits determine direction. When you make execution your identity, not just thinking, not just planning, but doing, you become untouchable by excuses. While others debate, you advance. While others complain, you create. While others hesitate, you hammer forward. This is how power builds from the inside out. Not through external validation or grand moments, but through a relentless personal standard. The mentally tough man doesn't need to be told what to do. He already knows, and he does it whether someone is watching or not. He trusts the process, he trusts the grind, and because of that trust, he doesn't panic when results are slow or obstacles arise. He knows that consistent effort, compounded over time, will always create force. The man who commits to consistent action becomes a force of nature. He is not thrown off course by emotion or setback. His path is not controlled by how he feels in a single moment, because he has trained himself to rise above momentary moods. He knows that greatness is not built in explosive effort, but in sustained execution. He understands that every day is a chance to grow stronger, and he takes that chance without hesitation. And through this daily commitment, through this quiet discipline, he discovers something far more valuable than success. He discovers control. Control over his mind, his time, his energy, and ultimately, his destiny. He becomes the kind of man who does not need to hope for better circumstances, because he has already decided to create them. Victory starts with a decision. Before the first step is taken, before the first challenge arrives, before a single result appears, there is a moment where a man looks within himself and decides who he will be. That decision is not made with words, it is made with resolve, it is not casual, it is not temporary, it is a firm, final, unwavering declaration that no matter what happens, there will be no retreat. That is where mental toughness is born. It does not begin with action, it begins with a choice. Most people never truly decide. They try, they hope, they entertain possibilities, but they leave space to quit. They leave the back door open. When pressure comes, they step out of the fire. When difficulty rises, they question whether the goal is worth it. But the man who truly decides, who draws a line and burns the option of failure, becomes something different. He becomes immune to distraction, resistant to doubt, unshaken by setbacks, because the decision has already been made, and all that remains is execution. The power of a real decision is that it removes the option of quitting. When the mind is split, it weakens. When there are multiple paths, comfort will always try to pull you toward the easier one. But when a man has decided, the path narrows. It becomes clear, and though it may not be easy, it becomes non-negotiable. He doesn't have to ask himself every day if he still wants it. He already answered that question. Now he shows up, he acts, he endures. That decision becomes the compass through every storm. To make that kind of decision, a man must first understand why he's choosing the path. If the reason is shallow, the commitment will be weak. If the reason is tied to status or approval or applause, it will crumble under pressure. But if the reason is internal, if it comes from a place so deep that nothing external can shake it, then no amount of failure, rejection, or pain will stop the pursuit. Purpose gives power to a decision. And when purpose is clear, discipline follows. A real decision does not wait for circumstances to align. It is made in the face of fear. It is made when nothing is guaranteed. It is made when you are tired, uncertain, and alone. And it is tested constantly. Life will test you to see if you meant what you said. Challenges will arise to push against your commitment. But that is the nature of all great pursuits. It's not supposed to be easy. If it were, it would not require decision. It would simply happen. But the greatest rewards demand the deepest resolve. From that single decision, everything else flows. Your habits change, your standards rise, your focus sharpens. You begin to measure your days differently, not by how you feel, but by what you produce. You stop negotiating with weakness. You stop tolerating excuses. You stop wasting time on things that don't align with the mission. Because once you've truly decided, you're not just interested, you're all in, and when you're all in, you find strength you didn't know you had. Others will notice, but that is not why you do it. You do it because there is something inside you that refuses to be average. Something that cannot accept a life of potential left untapped. That part of you, the warrior within, only awakens when you commit, not halfway, not conditionally, fully. That is the threshold where men stop drifting and begin driving. Where they stop reacting to life and start shaping it. The decision is not a one-time event. It must be reaffirmed daily, reaffirmed through your actions, your thoughts, and your standards. Some days you will feel strong. Others, you will feel nothing at all, but none of that matters when the decision is real, because you do not rely on feeling. You rely on the vow you made to yourself, and that vow becomes the strongest force in your life. It becomes the reason you rise, the reason you fight, the reason you refuse to stay down when life knocks you to your knees. A man who has truly decided does not chase greatness, he becomes it. Because the moment he chooses to rise above his excuses, his fears, and his limitations, he separates himself from the masses. He is no longer hoping for victory. He is marching toward it with conviction, with discipline, and with the unshakable knowledge that nothing will stop him. because he has already decided that it won't. You have within you the raw material of greatness, not because of where you come from, but because of what you choose to become. Mental toughness is not reserved for the few, it is forged by the willing. You build it each time you rise when it would be easier to stay down, each time you act when fear tells you to wait, and each time you decide that your purpose is greater than your pain. The world does not yield to the talented or the lucky, it yields to the relentless. So stand up, lock in, and begin. Your mind is your master key, and the moment you take control of it, there is nothing that can stop you.